Hi, Mike of OBR ADV Gear. Today we're going to be talking about the installation process of our Explorer saddlebag system. Primarily what that is taking the holster component and how are we going to attach this to the frame rack on our motorcycle. The process is very simple. All we have to do is properly align the holster on the frame rack and then transfer the marks from the frame rack onto the back plate, depending on the type of attachments that have been provided by the manufacturer of the frame rack. On this particular frame rack, the process is a little bit simpler because it provided us a one-piece attachment that is used to either attach hard panniers or a soft system. Other frame rack manufacturers, they'll provide individual attachment components or pucks. They have different terminology for it. In that particular case, if you have separate bottom and top, you'll want to mount the bottom first, so that way you can engage the system at the bottom of the rack hoop, and then set it in place and then properly mark the top. Here we're going to show the positioning of the holster to the rack system and how to properly mark the system onto your back plate. You can mark the system with either a permanent Sharpie marker, or if you're more inclined to be able to remove the marks, we recommend using a grease pencil. Those are readily available on Amazon or any hobby store. To align the system, simply hold it up to your frame rack. I like to use the bottom seam as a guideline with the lower hoop, and then adjust the holster, centering it front and rear until you're satisfied with that position. Once you're satisfied with the position, take the pen or pencil that you've chosen and start to make your transfer marks for your bolt holes. These marks are where obviously you're going to drill through the system. To bolt on the attachment bracket or the pucks or whatever parts have been provided by the frame rack manufacturer. Now that we've aligned the holster on the frame rack and we've transferred the marks from the frame rack attachment bracket or pucks or whatever is included with your particular rack system, we've chosen to use a Sharpie to transfer those marks. So now you can see that basically all the drill points that are required to mount this bracket are clearly marked on the back plate of the holster. You can either drill straight through, or you can also center punch those holes to provide a guide. Our particular bracket is drilled for 5/16 hardware, but I'm actually choosing to use 1/4-20. That provides a little bit of tolerance for adjustment should we need it and when we install it. To drill these through, it's the HDPE back plate that is within the pocket is relatively easy to drill through, as is the covering material. You'll still want to use some form of back plate to prevent drilling into the floor or anything that you don't want to damage with the drill bit. see on the inside that the holes have been completely drilled through. Now that we've drilled the back plate to match the mounting bracket that we're using, and again, this pattern is going to differ from frame rack to frame rack, as different manufacturers use different mounting systems. In this particular case, our bracket is actually drilled for a 5/16 bolt, but I've chosen to use a 1/4-20. That provides a little bit of tolerance should we need to be able to get in there and adjust that bracket a little bit. We do recommend stainless steel hardware for both the bolt and the washer. Button head style bolts are preferred because it has a very rounded, smooth profile. We want to run the button head from the inside, which is where the dry bag is going to exist, and then a nylock on the outside. Using the nylocks will help these to remain tight. Once you've drilled the holes on the one holster, you can now use that system as a guide or a template for the holster on the other side. What you want to make sure is that you're laying it down so that way the holsters are actually back to back or outside to outside. Otherwise, if their placing of your holes is not symmetrical, it'll be off. Now keep in mind that if you do make a mistake, it's not going to hurt this back plate to re-drill it. It's the HDPE plate that's in here. It's very resilient. You can drill this as many times as you need, short of actually putting perforations through the cover. That's about the only damage that you're doing to it. Okay. To transfer those marks, you just make sure everything's lined up. Make sure that the top edge is lined up. I make sure it's lined up from side to side, and you can also use your side buckles to make sure everything's in place. Once it is, just apply some downward pressure. As you can see, now our holes are transferred to the opposing side. There we have it. With the Explorer system now installed on the motorcycle, you can see it's solid to the rack system. Depending on your system, you can either just leave it on there and run it day to day, or you can remove it and store it until your next adventure. If you do leave it on there, it's best we recommend that you basically tuck in the dry bag and then use your side release buckles to tension up the holster, and that'll keep everything in place. You can tuck in the tails. I actually like to go ahead and take the tails in the front and actually run those through the Molly loop system. So there you have it. You're ready for your next adventure. For more information on the Explorer Saddlebag system, you can visit our website at www.obradvgear.com or check the link below.